Hello, this is the book, part 2. I'm gonna try to at least make this segment an hour long. And no, I'm not gonna make it an hour long for one story, but if one story were to take an hour, then yes, it's gonna be an hour long. But I'm gonna try to make this go at least an hour long. It will make me feel better. But today's story, I don't know if I said it, I'm going to repeat it again. I have a bit of a OCD. Ooh, I have to do a story on that. I had a really bad OCD incident. But this is not about that. Anyways, back to the book. Today, before I continue, I am so sorry. This segment about the book is part of a bigger goal. At least from my heart, my soul, it's what I feel, and this is the order that it's gonna go. Until I get to the main point, this is where it's starting off. I'm sorry for my speech. I'll be wanting to end my life whenever I make a mistake when I talk. But anyways, this is not about that. To begin, this segment is about Muhammad Ali bin Said. Such a beautiful soul. And what they did to him, unforgivable. Sorry. Here I go. Muhammad Said is one of the greatest men to come to America. Despite being enslaved for much of his life, he went through it all with courage and gratitude. He spoke 7 languages. He traveled continents. He served princes and princesses and diplomats. He fought in a Union army and wrote about his own life. Muhammad Said was born in Northern Africa. He was the 13th child to his parents' 19 children. His father was also a general in an army. After the death of his father and 2 brothers, he later ends up staying with Qatari, who taught him how to write and speak Arabic. Ma'lim means teacher. Ma'lim Qatari knew Arabic, Turkish, and Persian languages. All students in Ma'lim Qatari's, I think that's like Qatari, because it is towards their side of the earth. I think that's Qatari, so I'm gonna pronounce it as Qatari. If I say Qatari, that's like more of how Americans like to butcher stuff. So I'm gonna say Qatari until I'm corrected by an Arab person or a Persian person. Sorry. All the students in Ma'lim Qatari's class had to be circumcised. It was the requirements of the religion, which was Muhammadan teachings of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The boys were well fed in their Islamic school, but Qatari became very harsh at some point to make sure the students learned the language properly for them to use. Saeed got whooped at least once a day. This happened for a year. I want to call him Muhammad, but if I say Saeed, then it's Saeed, but I want to call him Muhammad. That was his birth-given name. We shall not forget his name. He would sometimes run away to his mom's house, but the result of him running away from his little whoopings from the class, he would get more whoopings from his mom and sometimes his uncle. Eventually, he gave up running from class and submitted to focusing on his schoolwork, period. Sorry. After the first year, Ma'lim Qatari treated them more kindly. He let the students go fishing and hunting. After 2 years, everyone in his class mastered Arabic. Mashallah. You see how they were trying to teach them with respect to the best way they can. And you know, for us Africans, it's hard sometimes to learn foreign languages. We can learn our community languages, but foreign languages, we're kind of hard. But anyways, to continue. The beginning of the third year Malim Qadri's class, a number of boys said, "We were invited to pay a visit to a town called Larry near the lake, about 15 miles northwest of Koka." His passion for hunting revived tenfold. All of a sudden, it revived. And having organized a group of 40 boys, they started out one day to have some sport. By the middle of the day, they killed several, I think that's guinea fowl, and 2 gazelles. The word is Guinea. I was going to Google how to pronounce it. For some reason, I forgot, and now I'm recording the podcast. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think that says guinea fowl. You know, them rat-looking things. I think that's what that is. I'm not sure. You can always go Google it, but I think that's how you pronounce it. Ugh, I hate myself. Okay, to continue. They started a fire by rubbing 2 dry sticks together, and they ate what they hunted. Then they went to a boa tree. Okay, that's how you say it, boa, because that's how my mom says it. So that's how I'm gonna pronounce it. But the word is Baobab. It's this, you know, the Lion King. The monkey takes that red stuff from the boa seed, fruit, and he rubs it on Simba. That's what that is. Anyways, to continue. Okay, they went to go get some fruit off the boa tree, which was a few minutes away from where they were resting. They wanted to get some fruit. The size of a boa is about twice the size of a cocoa bean. And you know what that looks like. I don't have to describe that to you. If you don't know what a chocolate bean looks like, I don't know what to tell you. I think that's your own fault. If you haven't watched Willy Wonka, that's definitely your own fault. You grown. To continue. Having dismounted 12 or 15 of them, of the boys climbed into the branches of the tree and threw down the fruit to their friends on the ground. All of a sudden, all of them heard horses at once, and never have they thought enemies being so close to Larry. They watched closely, and it didn't look good for them. So the friends at the bottom got on their horses and escaped. The rest of them on the tree were captured. Saeed, aka Muhammad, that's his last name. I don't know. I apologize because I don't like saying someone's last name, and I have written this by saying his last name. But, you know, don't forget, his name is Muhammad. Muhammad, being all the way at the top of the tree, hurt himself and became unconscious. When he wakes up, he's on the back of a horse tied up. The warnings of his mother came to his mind, and it made his spirit feel bitter. His heart felt quite heavy. It made him wish he was dreaming, although he knew his situation was very real. Imagine that. Weird, uncultured people come and take you, and your thought is, my mom, what is my mom gonna think? I have had that feeling before. That's gut-wrenching. It's awful. To continue. He knew he was in the hands of the dreadful, the cruel Kindles. As a slave, he could not form the slightest idea what was going to become of him. They traveled for one day and a portion of the day to come before reaching the camp of the captors. They took their tents down, and they continued the journey to Hausa. It took 10 days to make the trip. Imagine 10 days tied up, and you're stolen from I feel bad for him. To continue. During the night, Muhammad and his friends were tied together like wild beasts, in such a manner to make escaping impossible. While the Kindles were drunk and on narcotics, they forgot to tie some of the people that they captured. So the boys ended up strangling the captors, stole their horses, and escaped. They actually forgot to untie Muhammad and others. Muhammad thought maybe they were so excited for their escape and forgot him. When the Kindles woke up to find out 8 slaves ran away and some of their people died, they took the anger out on the slaves who remained. They reached the destination to be sold. Muhammad and his friends got separated from the world he once knew. He first was sold to a half Arab, half African man. Muhammad was afraid of him, but after a while he realized the man wasn't so bad. His master got paid every time he lent him over for others to use. So he kept him well fed before military use. That is so cruel. Something about a light-skinned black person thinking that they're above another black person is so disgusting. Like, it's so disturbing. Like, people back then got no balls to like say, you know what, I don't want to do none of that. I bought my own people. I'm going to set my own people free. Ugh, like, people are so disgusting. But to continue. His master, Haji Daoud, mind you, this time he got sold to someone else, whose name is Haji. His master, Haji Daoud, kept him well dressed and protected him from his Arab wife, who had bad manners. I just want to imply not all Arabs are bad. Okay? As a human being, you have to understand sometimes you will just experience life with people who are uncultured and are just very animal-like. And that's not everybody. There's black people who act like animals. There's Arabs who act like animals. There's white people who act like the devils. There's a lot of people who act like they're inhuman. But you cannot paint everyone with the same brush. That is also something that I am learning. Because that's a story for another time. But to continue. Daoud wanted to educate. That's his new master. Daoud wanted to educate Muhammad, enroll him in Turkish schools, and eventually adopt him. But eventually, those things never happened. But Daoud kept treating him with extreme kindness. Within that connection, Muhammad felt constrained to say that all the nationalities of people he had came across in his life, he loved the Turks, the most. People had always claimed they were extremely fierce and cruel. Again, he only thought of that because of rumors. And I will assure you, it was not the Turkish who was spreading rumors that they were cruel. It was the Europeans. Okay? Yeah. The Europeans. Look, the Jewish people in Poland and Germany, those are Europeans too. doesn't matter how thick their accent is. Anyways, to continue, I don't hate anyone, by the way. I'm just saying, back then they just spread rumors around, so nobody liked anybody. That was my point. I hope nobody in the future hears this and says Nina said this. Nina said nada. To continue, but the contrary is true, that they were generally kind-hearted, generous, and hospitable, and even their soldiers, who in battle are renowned for their courage and reckless daring and well-mannered men. Muhammad never liked Christian countries. He ended up in them because of slavery. At a point in their travels, Muhammad and Daoud were attacked and the thieves took their money. While traveling with the thieves, Daoud had made himself and Muhammad wear a belt that had gold hidden inside of it. The thieves never thought of looking for the gold in the belts. See, Daoud was smart. I love that for him. That gold later helped them with escaping and, of course, reporting them to the government they went to. Muhammad ends up completing Hajj with Daoud. In the later months, Daoud's market burns down and he ends up staying with Daoud's agent. The agent gets tired of Muhammad on their journey and sells him to the slave market. Since his arrival to Christian societies, he had remained consistent in Islamic prayers. He prayed 5 times a day, not eating pork or drinking wine. You see that? He tried to make sure his body remained pure. And that's a hard battle. That's a hard task. Because them people who eat pork, that's why they think like that. Pork flesh is close to a human. The Europeans was eating themselves. Anyways, nonetheless, he also wasn't drinking wine. To continue, eventually his owner made up his mind to turn Muhammad away. Of course, let me read that again. Eventually, his Christian owner made up his mind to turn Muhammad away from the horrific ways of Islam. I roll. Whenever Prince Nicholas, his owner, went to prayers, he made Muhammad stand before him and imitate every action he did, such as kneeling, bowing, making the sign of a cross. Mind you, he didn't have to do all that with Daoud. He didn't. Even the other captor, the half Arab, half idiot. Sorry, he was African. I'm not saying the African part is an idiot. The third part of him was an idiot. Even he didn't make him kneel down and do that cross, and he didn't even make him do too much. But this Christian one, I don't know. I don't want to sound hateful. I'm going to sound hateful. To continue, Nicholas went to prayers. He made Saeed stand before him and imitate every action he did, such as kneeling, bowing, and making the sign of the cross. Prince Nicholas, should I say Nicolaus, also used to lock Muhammad up in his house and abuse him to force him to learn his language. He didn't have to do all that. Ma'alim Qadri did not lock him to learn the language, but he did though. Eventually, Muhammad gave in and embraced the faith and took the religion of Russia. He was baptized in Rija on November 12th, 1855, leaving his Islamic name Muhammad Ali bin Said and keeping the name Nicholas Said. Eventually, his trauma gave in. And one thing about men is, I don't think they ever really have time to sit there and just cry everything out. And I'm pretty sure Muhammad went through so much trauma up to this point that he just felt like he has nothing taken away from his mom, doesn't know if his friends are alive, getting beaten, getting sold to military, doing his best to survive, and eventually getting so beat up to the point where he just accepted their religion and said, okay, I guess I'll be Christian. And he changed his name. Survival. This was because of survival. That is heartbreaking. But anyways, he kept his name Nicholas Said. Remember that. After the person, Nicholas, after the person who was abusing him, that submission, he chose Nicholas's name, and Nicholas did that to him. I hope Nicholas is burning in hell. To continue. The priest who baptized him sent for him and told him to kneel for hours to repent his sins. The marble was so hard on his knees, he became angry at the priest for his agony. As God's person, that's what a priest is, right? A God's person. As a God's person, how could you watch somebody suffer on their knees? God would never want that for anyone. But the priest made him do that to feel good about himself. The priest liked how good it made him feel to watch the poor black man kneel. And I bet you he thought that his blackness was the sins he needs to cry for. Get down on your knees because you're black. And being black means you're dirty. Oh, that just made me mad. Anyways, to continue. He visited Haiti and Brazil during his travels. During his time in America, he got paid to teach French students. The whites complimented him on how he represented himself. He was also endorsed by other white folks to continue teaching in schools. Mind you, there are times in his life where he became broke, and he was just so good at talking to these white folks that some had no option but to help him. I hope God has a lot of love for him. I hope Allah forgives him for every wrong thing that God might think was wrong. But I also know God understands the pressure and trauma you experience. So I pray that Muhammad is somewhere in Jannah. He didn't deserve any of the things he went through at all. And it's literally breaking my heart just knowing that he did it alone. But God was by his side. But he was alone if we're speaking family-wise. That kind of that hurts, even though I never met him. It hurts to know that, because I experienced that loneliness, even though I have family, but it's nothing compared to what he was going through. And I made myself sad I would pause this podcast and go ugly cry in a bathroom and come back. But I can't do that. To continue, Muhammad seen many states, and he was warned to avoid Alabama because in that state, freedom was not free. And they told him that because of his skin color, he wouldn't have the best experience over there. But Muhammad was very nosy and wanted an adventure. He wanted to write about his adventures in America. But to continue. But to his knowledge, he was treated very kindly by intelligent, quote unquote, intelligent white people. White people always had to suggest to each other that Muhammad was a very smart man. Smart black man, unlike other black folks. Muhammad goes on to say, black people in Alabama should certainly be grateful, which I think sounds very wrong because he hasn't seen what they were truly being treated like. He also thought the slightest of education should be able to help his black people. He didn't separate them and said black Americans. He said my people deserve to be educated. I do not think that white people around him informed him slavery was still around. I think because he was very educated, they kept him away from what they actually did to other black people because they wanted to use him to educate their children in different languages. So they kept him away from the dark side of America. Muhammad was very kind, calling other Africans his people and hoped for the best for them. Muhammad also never wanted fame, but rather wanted everyone to take advantage of education. Towards the end of his life, he became a teacher. James Conner read his story and said he wouldn't mind helping Muhammad publish it. And after 5 days since he told Muhammad that he would help, Muhammad received a letter from New Orleans saying that they were pleased with his manuscript. And you could guess how he wrote that letter. He did belittle him. He made it like, how do I describe this? He had to make sure he kind of sounds like he feels bad for him. He's disgusted by him, at the same time proud of him. I have to find the letter. But anyways, I don't know. Some people just give birth to Satan and are okay with it. Ugh. Anyways, to continue, I'm sorry. I really want to cry. Like I read the story, then I rewrote it again for you. And the first time I was intrigued of his strength. The second time I had to rewrite it into my book so I can keep my notes. I still felt hurt, and this is me reading it again to you, and somehow I still feel a heavy heart because they broke somebody who didn't deserve to be broken. And even after being broken, he helped. The kindness of his heart remained. And he taught the people who hurt him, he taught their children. I could never. They would have to kill me before I teach any of their heifers anything. Like, take me to my creator. I'm not doing any of this, but he did it. But with that being said, let me just continue. Muhammad goes on to live the rest of his life in Alabama. In his autobiography, he added a chapter where he teaches medicine. The chapter is called Supplementary. Also, he includes of other diseases as well to heal. Lastly, Muhammad stated that Africa has been through prejudice and ignorance so sadly misrepresented that anything like intelligence, industry, etc., is believed to not exist among its natives. That end. And with that being said, these people stole everything from Black people. And I'm not saying Black people as in just a specific group in the diaspora. And every single time I am talking about Black people, I mean everybody. I'm not excluding anyone, and it's everybody. They stole everything from us, stripped us away from our identity. That is so heartbreaking. That makes me so sad. Because look at me. I'm an African who came from Africa, and I've been intrigued about where I come from. Who am I? My identity is just not I come from a tribe. My identity is why God brought me here. Our identity as a Black person is to find our way back to our Creator. And I don't think a lot of Black people will ever understand that. And anyways, let me not cry in here, because I have other things I have to take care of, other things I have to research. But with that being said, all I am saying is, if you are Black, know that you are God's favorite. And I will explain, because I'm working on it. This is just beyond history. But anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing week, an amazing year. Please learn about your faith, learn about where you come from, but continue to follow me on my podcast until I put everything together. Inshallah. Bye.